Namaste, beautiful soul tribe. Look who I've got with me today. So many of you, sorry, first of all, we did not plan this and we haven't put a shout out to you all that we're going live, but here we are. Hopefully a few of you will jump on and see us. But otherwise, it's just honestly these days so much easier to go live than to pre-record and then all the uploads. So here we are. But many of you know Chris from, we've known each other for 20 odd years.
Yep.
And worked together at My Health. Chris is one of our healers at My Health. And we've been working in the truther arena for a little while. Chris has written a couple of books. Many of you would have done the Awaken New Earth Healing Program with us in 2020 when we were with Chris, Magenta Pixie, Sasha Stone, so many awesome truthers that we were collaborating with, Steve Strong, and you wrote a book at that time for that documentary, which was incredible, and you've written another book again now.
Yeah, that documentary inspired me to really go a bit deeper with the pen. And see what I could channel and what came through. So it sort of flowed on from that awesome documentary. And that's where a lot of the inspiration came from. And it was just perfect timing, I guess.
Yeah. Look, here's some comments coming in. Oh, good on you guys for jumping on, even though this is unscheduled. And let me see if I can get up some comments too whilst we're here. So Chris, if you had read Chris's book in 2020, you would know that he has proven himself in the most divine ways as being a true psychic. And so many people will say to him, how did you know? Like, how did you script all that out? And for us psychics, it's because we can see a little way into the future. We can read probable timelines. Now, I have to say probable timelines for this 2023 transmission that we're doing. And the reason why is that we all as sentient beings, as co-creators with the divine, we all add our electromagnetic power to the hologram through our feelings, through our thoughts, through our visions, through our knowings. And timelines can change. Therefore, if we get hooked into the doom gloom scenarios, we're going to see a downward spiral of energy. Or if we're going to, keep ourselves centered, focus on love, we still want to know about what's going on in the nefarious side of things, get the characters in the game and understand that reality. We don't want to bypass, but we're here to spiral up. And that's what the ascension process is about. It's a spiraling up wave of energy, if you like. And that's where we're at. So I feel like Chris has proven himself time and time again. A lot of you would have done transmissions with Chris and I. We've got an incredible one that we've already recorded for everyone about the use of cannabis. It's so fascinating what came through. I think many people are going to like this one. So, but I digress because we are here just to look at the 2023 probable timeline and what's been coming in. I had this beautiful mantra or invocation that's been with me for days and days and days, and it's to reset, refresh, and walk forward anew. So we're really having to do a lot of unshackling at the moment. We're in a time of just pulling out all of those false matrix plugs that we have unknowingly allowed into our DNA, into our cellular body. I had a beautiful vision come through from Mother Sophia. She said just the gold shaft of light coming down over the body. That's going to remove the external false matrix plugs, and then it spirals up from the earth, like deep earth, the spiraling of the gold coming through the center, through the loving portals of your midline, through your chakra system, if that's what you call it. And that's going to seep and soak into your DNA, into your cells, and it's going to remove the false matrix plugs from deep within. So it's a great visualization that we can do. So reset, refresh, and walk forward anew. And we often use tech terms when it comes to our own operating system. And in fact, technology, all your devices can teach you so much about what's going on in terms of our own operating system. We are going from offline, 2 strands of DNA, to online 12 strands of DNA, and furthermore from that point. But remember, we don't want to go too far into the future timelines. We need to kind of focus in the now moment and a probable direction of where we're going. But definitely many of you listening anyway would have had more strands of DNA come online. So you literally are becoming supernatural. You are literally getting these gifts that are keeping you very attuned. I noticed that even if you didn't call yourself a psychic, say before 2020, we're all psychic, by the way, so it's just a funny term we use. But so many of us are downloading the exact same thing at the exact same time because we are attuning to the high codes. We're in connection with all that is. And so what you'll find, so many people write it on my post, oh, I just downloaded the same thing. So we find there's a lot of synchronicities, coincidences, all of these psychic powers coming online. But more so than that, Chris, there's more supernatural powers that are coming online for us. Do you want to speak to that? What's your insight as to what's going on for us all?
Yeah, I think 2023 is a really interesting timeline marker. I think what we've been through over the last 2 to 3 years has been nothing short of challenging, but it has been an extraordinary journey as well. I mean, I think we've all started to embrace what our gifts are, and we've all got a wonderful little toolkit if we can tap into it. I mean, we've all become, as Carrie was saying before, a lot more psychic. We're using our intuition a lot more. We're starting to, learn the arts of astral travel, self-healing. There's so many unique activities out there in the spiritual world that we have an identification to. It's just a matter of finding out which one you're so blessed to be able to tap into. And looking at, a lot of friends and family that I've got around the place, seeing them grow since, I guess, let's mark 2020 as a timer just for conversational purposes, watching them transition through it and really taking the bit between the teeth and going, right, I'm going to believe in myself on this one. I'm going to trust my intuition. I'm going to understand my gut feelings. I'm going to really go deep within not what I'm being told and not what's being put in front of you, but making your own decisions. And I think that's part of our ascension journey, is getting back to self, understanding that what you deeply believe within your heart is always the correct answer. Look, there will always be moments, because we live in such a beautiful planet, that we're going to here to get lessons as well. So for every time we have a magnificent situation happen to us, or we have a beautiful emotion or a feeling, don't be afraid of the opposite side of that too. It's our light and our dark side. So there's going to be times where, there's going to be some sorrow, and there's also going to be some times where you have to go a little bit deeper and go, right, I'm not having the best of day here. But that's also a lesson too, that, since 2020, we've upgraded about what our loops are, what our patterns are, and why we keep attracting these things. So there's been so many upgrades and so many dimensional portals and transitions and timelines that are coming your way. And I'll just double back for a second, because Carrie was talking about earlier that, saying about like books and so forth that got written, that was not just an insight into my imagination or what I thought what may happen, which there's an element of that, don't get me wrong. But a lot of those were downloads, that was trusting what's outside of myself as well. So that's my guides and my angels, and having them participate in my life, not blocking them out, allowing them to speak freely as well. And I'm the portal here on earth, as you are the portal. So we're the ones that are grounded here. We're the ones with the voice. We're the ones with the movement. We're the ones that are able to make a difference. These entities that we're talking about, they're here to help. They're here to give you the messages so that you can express it through, visual ones like this, visual programs, or you might feel really inspired to sit down and write a lovely poem or a book or something along those lines. It's all an expression, but don't feel that the whole job is up to you. There's an enormous amount of help here. And they're all attracted to you when you literally switch the light on, because it's like a moth to a flame. They're like, oh, hello, Chris is on today. Let's go and join him and have a conversation. So my message for 2023 is keep ramping that program up. Keep believing in yourself, because we're the special ones. We're the ones that get to play it out in this particular timeline. So we're here.
Yeah, and we're all the special ones, and we're all the chosen ones.
Yeah.
The difference is humans have free will. It's part of the technology. It's a very heightened technology that we chose to script and experience here on this planet, Plan ET plan. We are the star beings that planned and scripted this whole reality. We are not victims here, but we do have free will. And so when souls aren't choosing to claim who they are as a co-creative being, as a divine being, as a adjunct to God, goddess, all that is, then they will become the victim. And therefore the victim must also have the savior. That's how the template works. And so as soon as you're a victim, you look outside of yourself for the savior. And this is why it's so easy for so many souls to be a part of slave programs. And all of us have been a part of slave programs because we had to, through this galactic cycle, which goes on for 26,000 odd years, we had to go through the galactic dark night of the soul. Just have a vision of what that looks like. If you're in a galactic dark night of the soul, it's perfect. Remember, it's an aspect of that whole epoch of time. So again, we're not victims, but we had very deep spiritual amnesia. We're in a deep state of slumber. And so we have to then wake up out of that slumber. And that's what we're viewing since 2020, is many of us have woken up. Many people were awake before that, of course. You've been on a consciousness journey for a long time. But 2020 was the marker for the masses to wake up out of that soul amnesia. Coupled with that, people who have been on a consciousness journey for a long time then went into major galactivation. Galactivation is where the veil pulls back. The third eye amplifies, and you're aware that there's dragon tribes, there's star family. You're a multidimensional being. You're morphing in and out of realities very effortlessly. And yes, there's still a part of you, the 3D mind, false mind programming that says, is there something wrong with me? Am I going crazy? Like I am talking to dragons? I rode a dragon. No, you're just going back to who you were as a child. It was innate within you. How do we honor that in children? And yet at what age do we say, no, that's not real? Forget your imagination. And we go into this serious adulting world. We get plugged into all these false matrix programs and we become very deadened at the soul level. And we run around what's called the Tron grid. And Chris works very, very closely with Metatron. Now, of course, there's a narrative out there that says Metatronic consciousness is negative by nature, not in its true spiritual sense, not in its organic sense, but there is an inversion of Metatron, and we call that the Tron grid. But I'll let you explain that, Chris, because you work so closely with him.
Yeah, I'll give you a very recent example of what came through only yesterday, so that's how fresh it is. I was taking my beautiful dog for a walk in a park that I'm quite familiar with, and I hadn't been there for excuse me, I hadn't been there for the first part of this year. And so when I took him into the park, at one point I noticed that they'd put up basically a fence for dogs now, and there was 2 yards, so they're like penned yards, and they had some seating arrangements in it. Anyway, when I looked at that and I saw the people taking their dog for a walk and just going straight into this penned yard, which was really only about 10 meters by 5 meters, so it wasn't even very big, and they were all just sitting around and not even paying any attention to the dogs. And it was just, to me, I felt very saddened when I saw this. And I'll be honest, it disturbed me greatly. I looked at it and I just thought, well, here's a massive park that goes for kilometers and kilometers and kilometers of beautiful bushland, wonderful trails through the whole thing. And here we are putting 2 pens, 10 by 10, 20 meters of area that you're allowed to use. And more unfortunately, there was a heap of rules that were there as well. You can do this, you can't do that. So that sort of struck me that day. And when I went away and had a bit of a think about that, I thought to myself, is this what we're trying to be subtly coast into? So in other words, it's a bit like a mind altering arrangement, is that we'll slowly push you into these pens and you'll get used to that. And then we'll suddenly introduce some other rules and some other areas until the pen gets tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter until they've locked you into a grid. So again, since the 2020 scenario, a lot of these things have been mind consciously put in front of you. So what happened was I went into a bit of a deep meditation, and I consciously had that thought thinking, okay, give me some insights into this arrangement. You know, what is this representation here? Why am I experiencing this, and why am I actually physically seeing it? So what came through was I found myself basically walking through familiar areas. I was walking through, talking to friends, and it was kind of like a grid setup. It was like, I don't know if anyone's seen the movie The Maze, but it was kind of like you were in a maze. And at one point I was talking to a few people, and then I would exit out of that conversation, turn around the corner, a bit like a Tron grid. And then I'd run into, say, some family members, and I'd talk to my mother or my father or whoever it may be, and I'd spend some time with them, and I'd move into the next Tron grid. So it was a bit like a video game. You're sort of being shunted around. I could only stay at certain periods of time. The reason being because I would say to those people, hey, my conversation has ended and thank you. I'll see you again soon. They were very perplexed about why I was moving on, because they couldn't understand. They thought you couldn't, that once you were in their locked arrangement, that's where we live and that's what we do. So where are you going? We don't understand. There's nothing out there. And I'm like double perplexed, sort of saying, hey, well, I have to have another conversation. I need to move on. So to cut a long story short, basically what had occurred was, and when I got to particularly my mother, who's obviously a big influence in my life, and I said to her that, look, I'm moving on now. I need to go. This conversation's ended, or we're moving through this transitional period. And she said, well, there's no way out. How do you know how to get out? Like, this is where we live. This is what we do. So she was locked into an arrangement when I was there that this was family time, and this is like a loop. She couldn't get outside of the loop, that basically had a spiritual amnesia, that she couldn't understand I was going somewhere. So what had happened was, because I wasn't part of that pen system and that loop system, I was able to freely navigate through the whole maze. So I found my exit basically, and that went straight out. And the first thing was I went straight up. And what I saw, because I couldn't understand this whole process of walking around, I saw this entire maze grid from a distance. So like a bird's eye view. And what I saw was literally a grid system that was down there, and everyone was living their Stepford Wives type lives. That shocked me. And I thought, okay, I've been having these downloads about these grid systems and smart cities and so forth that I think we've all probably touched on. And that was a view of the possibilities that could occur. And when I sort of decided to gather myself, Metatron, who I do a lot of work with, as Carrie was saying, he made an appearance, and he sort of dropped straight down in front of me. And it's something he told me very, very long time ago. And it made a lot of sense. And he looked deep into the eyes and basically said, but you know where the exits are. And that's the difference. Mm. And I said, yes, you're right. I don't have to stay in this system. Like, if I'm caught in a maze, or I'm living in a little bit more of a three-dimensional life, which is perfectly fine because there's a lot of experiences and lessons in there as well, but know where the exits are. Mm. And again, what I'll go back on is what I was talking about is accepting these guides and these higher intuitions, and more so yourself, is that these moments are golden. These moments and these lessons that we take are very much for your self-development, but also giving you some hope and some faith and some wonderful sort of insights to say, hey, I don't necessarily have to play this game. I'm the master controller here. Mm. This is the game that I've been placed in, but I'm doing it on my rules. Mm. And that's the difference about the programming.
It's a huge difference, isn't it? I mean, if anyone has seen the movie Tron, if you haven't, go and see it, because it'll give you a powerful insight as to what Chris is referring to. But we're seeing it play out in real time. Mm. And absolutely, Chris, the difference is some people know where the exit is. Now, we can't afford to get on our haughty high horse at that point and think that we're better than anyone else. And you'll see that narrative over and over and over again, even in the conscious collective, having to put down people who are not choosing to claim their soul at this time. And this is part of what the transmission we'll be talking about today, is that what we've been shown is if at that point you become vitriolic, you become smug, you become I told you so, your ascension spiral starts to move downward again. Now, you can be on an ascension upward spiral for, it could be years on end, and all of a sudden you will be tested. Your ego will be tested. And it's no guarantee that someone that you might follow, or your best friend or your partner or yourself, that they were on that ascension upward spiral. It's no guarantee they're staying there, because the tests get very, very refined as you go further along. So you could start to downward spiral again. And someone who was caught in the maze, as Chris used that perfect description, who had not claimed their soul, they could claim their soul, but because they had such a deep loving frequency in their heart, they could just incrementally start to move through that ascension spiral, move in that upward motion. I'm just using those terms so we can visualize it. And they could go past you. Now, again, that's not right or wrong either. We can't afford to assign right, wrong, judgment, good, bad to anything. In its highest dimensional sense, everything just is. But in the third dimensional sense, know that you're in a polarity realm. Know that you are in the realm of good and evil. And it's the same too in the 4D. And Chris spoke before about the astral work that we do together. And we go into the astral, and we've been doing it for a long time, and we just tweak timelines, not arrogantly, not wanting to change the course of events. But if there's something particularly nefarious going on, if there's a loose program going on, for instance, we went in and did a little thwart of Queen Lizzie's Jubilee, because we knew it was a satanic ritual. We knew they were going to be looshing off the public, unbeknownst to the public. Those members of the public have good, loving hearts. They don't know what they're doing. They're caught in a program. And so sometimes we just tweak timelines and let just a gap and a moment in time for that program to be dismantled, so that people can make that conscious choice to claim their soul. So none of us are anywhere. We're just where we're at. But there has been that activation, as I said, particularly since 2020, where many of us are now conscious to the direction that we're moving in. And one of the energies that came through that we were told we needed to speak about was this ascension gateway. And we were shown it's very much a gateway. And you can guess who's in command of that gateway. There actually is an entity who's in command of the gateway, whether you're going to ascend or not. I wonder if you can kind of intuit who that might be. It may not be who you think. Sometimes we go, it's Sophia, everything's Mother Sophia or Father Christ, you know. No, we were actually shown, we as starseeds, light workers, came to assist a planetary system to ascend. We were called, many people see it as, you know, the groups of volunteers that came. And if you know that, claim it. You're not being arrogant by claiming that. You're just remembering. Your soul codes are coming back online, and you're remembering who you are. So, of course, who would be in command of the Ascension Gateway? Well, none other than Mother Earth, Gaia, or as Chris likes to call her, Gaia herself. She is the guardian of the gateway. She will determine who's going through this round of ascension into the fifth dimension, and who's going to have another galactic cycle in the third dimension. Not right, not wrong, not good, not bad. We cannot assign any judgment to it. It's rather certain souls are ready for that dimensional shift in frequency bandwidth. Many people are already operating within fifth dimensional consciousness, and it overlays. It's overlaying the fourth, and it's overlaying the third, and so on and so forth. But that would be a whole video in itself to talk about multidimensionality. So in particular, one of the main points coming through for us all in 2023 is to honor Mother Earth. Earth is an anagram for heart. So either which way you see it, honor the heart energy. That's what fifth dimensional frequency consciousness is about. It's an unconditional love realm. That is where we're moving into. And that is why it's very specific what you're hearing from us today. If you have judgment of anyone who's not choosing that pathway, you are not operating out of the heart. And I know that's crazy and confusing and frustrating because you're like, wake up, come on. Why can't you see what I'm seeing? Don't you want to come with me into the ascension? Like, what's going on? And then it's like, oh, just discard you. And so it's not easy, even for the conscious collective. But honor Gaia, honor Earth, honor the heart frequencies. That is what she is telling us. She is the guardian of the Ascension Gateway. She, and she alone, has been given the absolute honor of choosing her inhabitants who are going with her into this fifth dimensional frequency. There'll be another copycat Earth lookalike third dimensional cycle for those that aren't choosing it. And that's perfect Earth school or 3D school for those beings. So what do you choose? Can you truly commit to the heart center? Can you truly commit to honoring without judgment where all souls are at? Can you, and this is more refined, can you truly commit to loving yourself no matter what? No matter what. Even as you move through that ascension spiral, moving upwards, guess what? You're going to loop around yourself. And the reason why, and what was shown to me very, very clearly, and this did come from Mother Sophia, the reason why is because your karmic balance, now karma is not negative. It's absolutely not negative. It is a balancer. It needs to balance for you to keep moving through that ascension spiral. So part of what will happen as you need to balance karma is you will loop. You will loop out here from your own spiral. You'll loop around and you'll go, why am I hitting my head against the brick wall? Why am I playing out these same patterns? I thought I'd healed that pattern. Why have I yet again magnetized into my life this same character, this same relationship, this same friendship, this same rejection, this same abuse, this same betrayal, this same neglect? Why am I back here playing that? It's a karmic balancer. You may have mistreated someone somewhere, maybe a past life. You may not even consciously know where that's coming from. There's all sorts of dynamics that are playing out for us, balancing all the time so we can keep incrementally moving through this ascension gateway. So we have to commit to the process, and true love of self means I forgive myself, I have compassion for myself, no matter what is playing out there in the external, no matter the loops that I'm running around in and frustrating myself. I choose to love myself no matter what, so I can keep making this journey. And I guess at the time, because I'm playing a bit of a karma out at the moment, I've got to tell you guys, I guess when that happens, it knocks your big ego off its perch and you're like, oh, yeah, right, and it recalibrates you into just love and forgiveness for all. As you observe someone else playing out their stuff, you just go, yeah, that's okay. It's a perfect experience as well. We're all perfect within this. So because Chris and I can rave on a lot, let me just check our notes, because there's some specific things that we were told we had to bring through. Otherwise, we're going to just keep raving on. But Chris, this one was really interesting. So what we were shown was the epoch of time of Atlantis. Okay, so you can think of Atlantis, you can think of Lemuria as an epoch of time or a galactic cycle. And then we moved into Atlantis, an epoch of time, galactic cycle. Now we're in Earth, an epoch of time, galactic cycle, and we're moving to the end of that. We've actually, from that galactic dark night of the soul, we are literally now, Earth is lined up with the galactic center, and we're streaming in light. So the solar flashes, or the solar flares, I should say, and there's much talk about a solar flash. We see that a little bit different. Maybe we'll get time to explain it. Maybe we won't in this one, but we can do another video on that. But basically, there's all these gamma rays coming into the planet. So that's the assistance, through the central sun of Sirius, coming through the Ra portal, that's Earth's sun, and then into our DNA, giving us that upgrade in our operating system. But what we were shown, and this is fascinating to me, and it kind of makes me laugh, but at the same time, it's a serious matter, is that as our DNA comes back online, we're exact pinnacle point of where we were in Atlantis. So light workers, star seeds, way showers can easily come into a sense of their God, goddess energy. And you're meant to. You're absolutely meant to, because ultimately you are aligned to the source code. So claiming that is very, very important. But of course, this is the little insidious ego trap, because as soon as you claim your God, goddess, all that is, and your supernatural powers come online, like we referred to earlier. So telekinesis, we're coming into being able to command the weather. It's a great antidote to the HAARP, HAARP, the HAARP technology that's modifying our weather. All of these things start to come online. As I said, the psychic powers. I don't see in 2023 we're going into teleportation, but you can at least hold that vision for somewhere down in the future timelines. So the gods and the goddesses were at the same point in Atlantis, and what they did, instead of unifying, they started fighting each other. You're seeing it playing out right now, aren't you? You're seeing it playing out, you guys listening. You're seeing, oh, that truth is not right. Oh, I don't trust this person. Oh, it's them. Oh, they said they were a lightweight. Oh, they're not psychic. I'm seeing it all over the place. Who cares? Who honestly cares? Love you if you're saying that. But who honestly cares? Because the reason it's happening is to move you inward. So you source from source. Take your codes from dark siders, light siders, doesn't really matter. Guess what? Dark side is only invert light side codes. It's all the same. You're still getting the same intel. It's up to you to know how to convert it and use it to move through your personal ascension gateway. When you move through your personal ascension gateway, you add to the collective consciousness of divinity. And so en masse, you may see it seems like many of us are moving through the ascension gateway, but it was a frequency that you expressed because you did the work, you did it, and then it expressed into the hologram. But Chris, what we were shown was like the gods and goddesses fighting each other in Atlantis. And what we did, we sunk ourselves. That's what we did. So it's like, oh, I've got laser beams coming out of my eyes. That's my supernatural technology. And I'm going to thwart you with my big energy balls coming out of my palms.
It's just an ego battle, basically, because they had a bit of a lick of the ice cream with the power trip. And they really thought in Atlantis, particularly towards the end, that they were walking gods and goddesses, that to the point where they felt they could dictate the terms. And there's a little bit of a lesson in that there's nothing wrong with dictating terms, but it's your terms, as in like go within what's the intention. So it's not about dictating everyone else, which is kind of what happened with Atlantis. It was like a mass takeover, as in these are the new set of rules. This is the way to enlightenment. Well, that little holy kingdom sunk, as we know. So at the end of the day, it was more about cleansing that attitude and saying, well, I'm sorry, it's not always about the mass projection of a plan, as in we all have to do this. I mean, we are unique, beautiful individual souls here. And, you know, and half the reason of why we're on planet Earth right now was an energetic calling to come and spend some time in paradise, but also not only enjoy all the fruits of what is here, but also go deep within those eons of trauma that we've also occurred in other lifetimes. So a lot of the times that we get a little bit stagnant in our movement is when we don't listen to that beautiful little boy or that little girl that's deep inside of you, and we put them on pause, we put the hold button on, and we go, hang on a sec, you need to go back into the corner because you're asking me to, you know, have fun and run naked through the forest and get on the swing and play and dive into the ocean, all these things. But it's like your logical mind turns around and goes, well, hang on a sec, I'm a grown adult now and I need to, you know, be a certain way or project a certain image. It's about finding that innocence again whilst we're here. It's about going, okay, I've come here for a reason and I've come here to upgrade. So upgrading is a lot to do with past, present, and future lives, and they're all extraordinarily important. And until we can find a way to heal and forgive ourselves, most importantly, then we're going to stay in this neural loop, because that's kind of that safe zone. Is if I'm creating trauma or tragedy or chaos or everything that I'm used to, and also all of the information that's been coming at you here on planet Earth, which is primarily what's been happening long before 2020, is that's your safe zone. So unless I've got some negativity going on or you know, the very first conversation you have when you wake up, if you go to work and you're sitting around the water cooler, as an example, first thing is just check yourself. Usually it's about, oh, did you hear about that guy? Oh my God. It's usually that negativity attitude. So it's kind of like, why are we starting the day off with, oh, blah, blah's dead, or there was a car crash, or was this, that, and the other? Oh God, there's too much rain. So we are sort of in that neural loop of going, well, let's work through all this chaos and negativity first, and then we get to the good stuff. Well, there's a healthy blend of it both. And we've just got to understand how much time we spend in each one. So if you choose to stay in that negativity field, just say there's been a tragic death in your family, and you might be in this deep sorrow, and you are allowed, you purge to the cows come home, you get that bad boy out. But at the same time, you don't have to stay there for, you know, years, 2 years, 3 years, which a lot of people do. They find there's just too much heartbreak. I can't go on, because if I express myself outside it, I'm only going to come back again and feel this whole sorrow again. And that's the beauty of it all, is that we're here to experience it all, the light and the dark side, and embrace it. Because without that, we don't get to our next, as Carrie would say, that epoch of time. And it's important that we take these lessons with us, because we can look back and go, see how much I've grown, see how much I've, you know, put my little Merlin cape on, you know, become that little wizard that we want to be, you know, understand the gifts of why we're here, because we're extraordinarily gifted to be here in a human body. I can tell you that right now. Yeah. This is one massive dimension, to be able to feel, to have senses, to be able to love, to be able to feel hurt, to be able, you know, to walk through and feel cold water and hot water and the sun on you. I mean, this is a very unique dimension. I can tell you that from a lot of experience. So don't waste it while you're here. You know, enjoy everything, good and bad, because it doesn't define you. Your experience is here, but it assists you in the journey to the next stage and the next stage and the next stage. They're never forgotten. I can guarantee you that. So, yeah. You know, I think that's an important point, just to say how important you are in this game. You are not a program. You are not here to be told where to go, how to do it, how long I can do it. You're the dictator of the program. And that's the important part, is you've got to break those chains, unshackle that whole, you know, boxed in, penned arrangement that I was talking about before. You know, someone else built the pen. It's up to you whether you want to step inside it.
Yeah,
you have a choice.
The exercising of the free will, and we are the creator. We are in the video game. However, we also have the remote control to the video game. And once you claim that kind of holy trinity, and I know that was a funny way to describe it, but sometimes we've got to see it like that for it to make sense, because we're used to gaming and all these sorts of things in this realm. So remember, you've got the video, you've got the remote control. You're cool. You're okay. You're master of self. You're healer of self. You're not master or healer of anyone else. And that's why we're getting into, I love some of your comments coming through about pointing out, okay, we don't have to follow these other truthers. Take your codes, take your bits. You don't have to, you know, yes, there's demons running around this realm, you know, and if you get a sense that they are for you, but they may not be for someone else, you're entitled to honor that. You know, it's not really out there. There are only feedback loops coming in just to move you back into center, move you back into alignment with your highest knowing of what's actually playing out here. So we were told to speak about multidimensionality, and we're going to do a show in a couple of days in the Lightworkers Lounge about we actually started a process of our galactic chart. So we're going to go back to that and help anyone else who's joined more recently and start to get a concept of who we are as character or avatar beings in other dimensions of reality. And that's not just the dimensions above us, it's also telluric dimensions, so 2D. You may have a sense your whole life that you've always been aligned with pixies or fairies or elves. That's a part of it. But there's at least 12 scales, if you like, that we're here to get in touch with. And some of you go even more refined and may go into the, 15th dimension. It doesn't really matter. It's what's truth for you. But how we can kind of, I guess, wrap it up very succinctly now is to make sure that you are using your imagination and trusting your imagination. Imagination is so important. If you get a sense that you're being spoken to from yourself in a 9D or 10D form. You have a sense that you have a dragon tribe. You have a sense that you are a queen or within a different, or a priestess within a different star system. Doesn't mean you're the only queen or the only priestess. It's generally how it works in the higher echelons. There's many queens. There's initiatory processes that give you that queen energy, that king energy, that priest energy, that wizardry energy. I know from, listening to a lot of Chris's downloads, like he mentioned it before, he's very aligned to Merlin. So for him, the wizard energy is always around. If that's how you're sourcing higher codes, higher awareness, do it. Trust it. Know it. You don't have to second guess yourself anytime, anywhere. And in fact, we're moving into this very refined aspect of our ascension journey that if we start negating our own imagination, we negate the fact that we live within magic. And if we negate the fact that we live within magic, guess what? That side, that Tron grid wins out. That Illuminati, cabal, deep state, probably going to get censored for all of these words, but you know what I'm talking about. They win. You set them up as your ultimate opponent because you're on your own hero or heroine's journey. You don't have to make them even wrong. And that can be quite refined in itself. But what I mean by that is you created them to activate yourself, to activate your supernatural powers, to come back to magic. Like our original people in Australia say, we all live within magic. We are all from the stars. That's why I made that meme. We are Plan ET, Plan ET. We are ETs that plan this. We are the star beings that plan this. When we're in star form, we're more ethereal. When we're in planetary form, we have a sense of solidarity, this being a solid realm and solidarity. But it's not solid. It's just vibrating atoms. It's all energy realms. That's all that it is. That does not mean we're bypassing. That does not mean we're not aware of the depravity, the abuse that goes on here. Yes, it does go on, but that's why we have to rise. We have to say absolutely no more. I will not tolerate for another second, another moment, some of the abuse that's been going on, some of the ways that you are penning us. Like Chris said, we're now getting penned into little areas in the park. Is that, it's okay for your dog. We'll do that for the dog, but soon it'll be you, the human. No, we say absolutely not. I do not consent. You can write it on a piece of paper and post it on your door. You can yell it from a mountaintop. You can put it on your social media. You know what? The mode of expression does not matter. The expression matters. You send it out there to the hologram. You send it out there. You say, I will not. I absolutely will not. I am a being of love. I am a warrior of love. That's who I am. That's what I'm doing. And I will not tolerate anything other than that. I trust in magic. I trust in my multidimensional self. I trust that I have all these avatar beings streaming through me at the right time as I need them, just like tuning into a radio station. I'm going to tune into those channels whenever I choose to, because I am aligned with love. And that is what I am doing. And that is who I am. And that is what I'm here to enact. And that is what I am here to link with all my brothers and sisters, because that is who we all are. So discernment, yes. And we've talked about that. Skepticism, no. I say no to skepticism. For the skeptics out there say, prove it. Prove it. When are these celebrities getting arrested? Prove it. Well, they already have been. Or prove the ascension. Well, we've already been in it, at least since 2020. I've got nothing to prove. But if you're going to sit there being skeptical, you are feeding the dark side. Have discernment. Yes, have discernment. But do not have skepticism as to what's actually happening here. So anyway, that's my rant.
There's another part of that as well, which is something that's been grating on me for a while. Is that I obviously talk to an enormous amount of people. There's a couple of areas that I find that is very programmed. Is that when you're talking about these subjects, this is full of mysticism. This is full of areas that are beyond the great beyond, and so therefore, when you want proof and when you want it sort of set out in a particular formula, then I think you've lost the plot. Is at the end of the day, that is your own little program. So if you're being over intellectual about something, or if you're being over scientific, in other words, you need a pie graph put in front of you or a bunch of statistics in order for you to get the message, then you've got a little way to go, because there's no trust. There's no trust in yourself You're wanting something researched. It's already been researched. So what are you researching? Your inner self, your truth, not what someone wrote, not what someone said. That's all fine. We're all here for inspiration. Don't get me wrong. But I'm more interested in your story. I want to know what you've got to say, because that's a proper conversation. It's not what you heard someone say. It's not what you went off and read. That's someone else's interpretation. The beauty lies from within. That's how we get connected. That's how we take a wonderful understanding of each other. That's how we align to the right partner. We align to the right community, the right people that actually see you clearly for the radiant beauty that you are. So when you walk into a room, people are going to go, I see the magic in that man, or I see the magic in that woman, and I'm aligned to them and I want to have a conversation. And that's the important part, is that, we all have such majesty in us. We all have such raw beauty. It's just that we sometimes are waiting to be told how beautiful we are sometimes, or waiting for us to get an attaboy, or, have our ego stroked. There's a time and a place for that. But at the end of the day, it's looking after yourself. And there's a number of factors there too, that's looking after your health. And it's also looking after the way that you present yourself, the way that you go about how you talk to others, the way about how you express your love. I mean, energy is the biggest dynamic that we have here. So if your energy is in alignment, then usually the rest of your life will follow, because your energy's there out in front of you. It's like going, hey, come on this path, walk with me. So I think there's lots of different codes and lots of different things that we see around us. I mean, even, walking in nature, we can really connect, and we can get a lot of the messages in there, and we can sort of understand why this planet is here. You can see the ancient growth in it, and why it's all here, and what parts of it we're meant to use, whether it's the plant medicines, and go out and get some sun from Ra, get some salt into the body from the oceans. It's all here. It's just beautiful. We've got to start to utilize it.
I'm loving all the comments too. So the final thing that we were guided to talk about was the way of Eros, or Eros is also an anagram for rose. So the way of the rose, many the goddesses listening here would be very familiar with the way of the rose, and they may also be or feel that they are a part of the order of the rose, maybe is the best way to say it. So if you have an affinity with roses, the aroma of roses, you sense that you're of that lineage of Mother Mary, Mary Magdalene, coming really from Mother Sophia as our primordial goddess energy, but that kind of lineage, the order of the rose. And the masculine side of that is the Eros, as the anagram for rose. Now, the Eros is also the derivative of erotica, or erotic is the derivative of Eros. So Eros can be seen as a god or a deity. It's our primal sensual and sexual energies that have been inverted for so long. And there's so much guilt around our sexual pulsations, and because of the abuse that goes on in this realm, we often want to turn away. We just want to suppress that energy, shut it down. We're confused by it. We don't know how to harness it. We don't know how to use it to move us through this ascension gateway. But we're being told that we very much need to harness the Eros rose energy at this time. And for those who are in sacred loving partnerships, that can be an area that you can explore, or you're going to explore it just within yourself. And we're being told, in particular with the false matrix programs and the plugs that we're taking out to do with our sexuality, there's going to be a whole sexual renaissance happening. And so this means that, particularly for the couples, if you have a routine in your sexual lives, you must throw that routine out now. You must be willing to just go into exploration and letting the energy move you in a certain way, so that there's no race to have penetration. There's no race to have an orgasm. There is just a loving and innocent exploration. If you're doing it just because, you're solo, single, great. Please don't take some of what we're saying for the couples and think, oh, that's not me, so I'll just, discard that energy. Everyone needs to harness this energy at the moment, in particular because the lowest point of depravity that we reached within this realm was the sexual distortion and abuse. We know that the innocent essence, I'm not going to say the name here, but you know what I'm talking about, gets sold. It's $1 billion industry. So we have to take command of that, bring the innocence back into self, and move into exploration with the Eros rose energy guiding the way. And it's awakening to your true erotic nature. Now, when I say erotic, I am not talking S&M, bondage, any of that. I'm talking about the innocence of it, but it is erotic by nature. It's pure pulsation. It's pure energy. It's the thrum, the throb, all of those energies, but it's coupled with the energies coming from the higher self and has to express out of the heart. The three must be together as one. So the hum, the throb, and the thrum from the heart. So we're moving into that in 2023. That in itself, that activation will help also the DNA come online and the 12 strands of the recoding of the DNA. So it's very powerful time. So whether you're exploring it as a single person or in sacred sexual coupling, even with lovemaking of self, with masturbation, change up what you're doing. In particular, and we've talked about this in other transmissions that Chris and I have done, we are moving out of anything to do with pornography. You have to let that go now for anyone who's still engaged in that. Yes, it's a dark side trick. They're looshing off you at that point. So you have to start awakening the third eye here and having more erotic visualizations in the third eye to conduct that energy through the body. So porn's got to go by the wayside. Don't feel guilty. I'm seeing 12:12 on the clock as I say that. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel guilty. Let the guilt go. Just make a choice to upgrade the program now. So I'll let you have a bit of a chat about that, Chris, from a masculine point of view as well.
Yeah, well, I guess, coming here in a male body, that, we have a very high sexual arousal intake. We also have a lot of stimulus running through our bodies. And I think males have been under an enormous entrapment to feel that it always has to be released, so that therefore you feel justified, or you feel like, okay, now I feel better, I can replenish and start again. And a lot of the, the programs that have been put in front, it's not just males, it's also women and beautiful females as well, that there's the allurement, particularly with in the movies that we watch, and obviously, the pornography that Carrie is talking about, but there's also, the magazines that are on the shelves. There's all these sorts of things. So it's always in your vision. There's always this, that we have to be a certain way. There's a particularly sexy type of look that we have to achieve. And so therefore they're continually putting that in front of you. And therefore that's where the division occurs, is because we keep looking at all these images and we keep looking at all these, so-called ways that we're meant to be, or the ways that we're meant to look. And then we get depleted because it's like, oh my God, I could never do that. So I'm going to go to the fridge and grab another piece of chocolate cake in order to feel myself better again. So I think the entire program of sensuality and sexuality, particularly here on Earth, that script has to be completely rewritten, because it's not a program. It's a feeling, it's an emotion, and it's an expression. It is dynamic. It is something that you explore not only with yourself, but with your partner. There's no script. It's not like, oh, we go here and then we go here and then we go here and we go here. Go where the energy flows. And that is the majesty of it. And that is the part that we've got to get back to. All of our angels and all of the beautiful deities that are trying to assist us, they feed off this energy too, and they're learning. They're not in a physical body. So they're absolutely wanting to see this upgrade, particularly in the area of love, and wanting to be able to see that so that they can understand the expression that people have with each other. And I think we've started to lose that connection. I mean, again, we'll use that 2020 timeline again, just for kicks, is that prior to that, everything was so safe. So all the programs were in place. I wake up at this hour and I eat this, and then I go to work, and then I come home and I walk the dog, and I do it all again. And that's Groundhog Day. We needed something to shake us up. God, did we get shake up? But it wasn't just about our lives. That if you go through the tunnels, there's tunnels of love, and there's tunnels of transition, and there's tunnels of expression, and there's tunnels of understanding and learning and creativity and spontaneity. It's all there. And they're the ones we've got to bring back into our journey and go, hey, remember the program? Well, I'm in control. I have the remote control. I'll dictate what I'm viewing. I'll dictate how I express myself, and I'll dictate the feelings that are inside me, and I'll pour them out. And that is the important part, is because there's no program, there's no controlled mechanism, there's no rules around pure energy. There's no rule. It cannot be stopped. It is undeniable. It knows no boundaries. It will go where energy flows. You cannot control it. You can't pen it. You can't stop it. And that's the essence we've got to get back into, is become that being that is willing to express themselves and really willing to walk this earth and get all the information, and trust. The trust is deep within you. And that's the one we've got to get back to. I've probably repeated myself here so many times, but I just can't emphasize enough how much these programs are really dictating the journey that you're on. And if you want to do that cycle again, knock yourself out. It's not actually a problem. We're all got to come back at some point and learn something. So it's the choice is yours. I just don't think we quite understand how much freedom we actually do have here. I know we driving to work, you see, oh, there's a red light, there's a green light, there's an advertising on a billboard, there's this, there's that. I mean, it's at you all the time. And you've got to somehow process that information all before you get to the destination. And that's part of the program too, is let's exhaust the mind. And by the time you've got to where you're going, you've forgotten even why you're there. So that's the part we've got to be able to go is, okay, well, I've got all this neon glitter around me, which is perfectly fine. But at the same time, how much of that program am I going to buy into? How much of that messaging really is of benefit? Sometimes you've got to sit there and go, but what's in it for me? And that's not an egotistical statement. What's in it for me? Go away and have a bit of a think about that one, because importantly, that's not putting your little girl, little boy on hold. They're wanting to know what's in it for them too. They're on this journey. So
yeah, and that's our final point. And we'll say goodbye to everyone. Thanks for staying here with us, guys. Beautiful, beautiful energy and comments for our impromptu session here.
Thank you.
But yeah, that's our final one, is not to put your inner little boy or your inner little girl on hold anymore. And at the same time, not to put your inner God or your inner goddess on hold anymore. If you are looking after someone else over and above honoring your inner boy or your inner little girl, you've been given permission now to stop that, because you're not actually serving at the highest level. I know that's a divine paradox. I know people go, yeah, but I'm here to look after others. Yes, you are. You are here to serve others, but not where you're sacrificing your own. If your inner little boy or inner little girl is locked in a fortress, no one can get in there, and the only one that has the key is you, and you're on the inside of that fortress, you've got to turn the key now. You've got to come out of the fortress. You've got to add your power to this hologram, because you are here as the savior of self. You are here as the one you've always been waiting for. And when you claim that, you own that, that is your highest service to your brothers and sisters. That is your highest service. So we love you guys so much. Yeah, we're such a beautiful family and tribe, and no one's excluded from that. Everyone's part of that. There's no elitism here at all. It's just alignment, isn't it?
That's a pretty funky tribe.
Yeah, it's a funky tribe. All right, guys. Love you so much. Thanks for the beautiful comments coming in. And remember, the cannabis transmission is recorded. Someone asked before, can we just quickly go over that? All we can say is there's a lot of great information in there. It's probably not what you think it is, but there's no rules. Just remember, there's no rules here. So you will love that. It comes from, the transmission came from a Native American teenager from, I think, about the 1800s. He came through. It was an interesting, we normally go forward timelines. This one, we went back in a timeline. And then someone else came through as well, Chris. Oh, Mother Gaia, and Mother Mary, because Mother Mary medicine. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So no rules. You can be into it, not into it, doesn't really matter. But it's fascinating, and we'll get that up in the next couple of days. Yes, Joe, absolutely. Let's close out with Joe. Love him so much. Beautiful brother in the States. If it's not us, then who, right? Absolutely. If it's not us, then who? What are we waiting for? Come on.
You can all do it.
Come on.
I'm interested in what you got to say. Can't learn anything without you guys.
I know. Absolutely. Oh, hey, Catherine. Beautiful soul. Catherine Hand is the coordinator of the Cosmic Consciousness Conference. She has one coming up on Norfolk Island. I was fortunate to be there, well, I have to say last year now, Catherine, as one of the facilitators or the speakers. But there's another one coming up in May on Norfolk Island. Is that right? Have I got my islands right? Yeah, so get in touch with Catherine if you want to be a part of that. She is amazing, and she didn't know I was going to give her a shout out. All right, guys, love you. Otherwise, we'll just keep waffling and keep responding to messages. Mwah. Love you, Sarah. Thanks for the great comments. See you guys.